The phone rang in the darkness, piercing the silence of Alexander Morgan's Manhattan penthouse. He jolted awake, his heart hammering against his ribs, sheets tangled around his legs. For a moment, disoriented, he reached for someone who wasn't there, hadn't been there for years. The digital clock on his nightstand glowed 3:17 a.m. The same dream again. The third time this week. A dream of the family he never had. Alex swung his legs over the edge of the bed and ran his hands through his dark hair, now threaded with premature silver at the temples. At 38, he had everything money could buy: the Pitum house overlooking Central Park, the collection of rare art adorning his walls, the fleet of luxury cars, the private jet. As CEO of Morgan Hotels, his name graced the facades of 37 luxury establishments across 4 continents. Everything except someone to come home to. The New York skyline glittered beyond floor-to-ceiling windows, beautiful, distant, cold. Like his life. "Mr. Morgan," his assistant's voice flooded the conference room through the speaker. "Tokyo is waiting on line 1. Alex straightened his Italian silk tie, centering himself. "Put them through." The massive screen on the wall flickered to life, revealing 5 Japanese executives seated around a polished table. Alex smiled with practiced charm, but his mind drifted as the conversation about the new Tokyo property turned to amenities and budget projections. His gaze wandered to the panoramic view of Manhattan from the 63rd floor of Morgan Tower. Down there, millions of people were living ordinary lives, going home to families, reading bedtime stories, arguing over whose turn it was to do the dishes, the simple things that had somehow eluded him. Alexander, the voice of Tanaka-san, the lead investor, pulled him back. "Your thoughts on the proposal?" "I apologize," Alex said smoothly. "The numbers look promising, but I'd like to review the market research once more before making a final decision." The meeting concluded with bows and promises. As the screen went dark, Alex loosened his tie with a sigh. He wasn't usually this distracted. Focus had always been his superpower, the ability to shut out everything but the deal in front of him. Lawrence Peterson, his CFO and oldest friend from Princeton, appeared in the doorway, his round face creased with concern. "The board meeting's been moved up," Lawrence said, closing the door behind him. "They're waiting in the main conference room." "They weren't scheduled until next week." Lawrence's expression tightened. "This is unofficial. Winters is stirring things up again." Alex felt the familiar tension settle between his shoulders at the mention of Harold Winters, father of Rebecca, the woman who had nearly destroyed everything he'd built. 5 years ago, Alex had been engaged to Rebecca Winters, believing he had finally found someone who saw beyond his wealth. Instead, she had used their pillow talk to feed insider information to her father, a rival hotel magnate. The scandal had made headlines in every major newspaper. Hotel heir jilted Morgan's CEO betrayed by Winters' heiress. The stock had plummeted. Alex had weathered the storm, but something inside him had closed off. Romance became a transaction. Every relationship a potential liability. "What's Harold's play this time?" Alex asked, sliding his suit jacket back on. "Not Harold, the entire board. They're concerned about stability." The main conference room fell silent as Alex entered. 12 board members seated around a gleaming mahogany table, their expressions grave. Richard Kent, the silver-haired chairman, spoke first. "Alex, we'll be direct. The shareholders are expressing concern about the company's public image, specifically yours." Alex remained standing. "Our Q3 profits exceeded projections by 17%. The Dubai property opened ahead of schedule. Tokyo is on board." "This isn't about performance," Melissa Chen, head of the audit committee, interjected. "It's about perception. Our investors want a CEO with a stable personal life, someone who isn't perpetually featured in the tabloids with a different woman each month." Alex felt heat rise in his chest. "My personal life is irrelevant to my ability to run this company." "In an ideal world, perhaps," Richard said. "But we've had significant pushback after the Winter scandal. Rightly or wrongly, people question the judgment of a man who can't manage his own personal affairs." "That was 5 years ago," Alex said, his voice tightly controlled. "And as I recall, I was the victim in that situation." Lawrence cleared his throat. "What the board is trying to say is that they'd like to see you settle down. Present a more traditional image. You want me to find a wife to boost the stock price?" The words came out sharper than Alex intended. Richard's expression hardened. We want you to demonstrate that you can maintain a committed relationship. The last 3 quarters, our family-focused investors have been migrating to Meridian hotels. Their CEO has been married 25 years, has 3 children, coaches Little League. Meanwhile, you're photographed with models and actresses, none lasting more than a few weeks. 3 months, Alex said quietly, feeling the weight of their collective judgment. You want me to find a stable relationship in 3 months or what? You'll find a CEO who fits your family man image. The silence that followed was answer enough. After the board members filed out, only Lawrence remained perched awkwardly on the edge of the conference table. They can't replace me, Alex said. I built Morgan Hotels from the ground up when my father left nothing but debt and a single failing property. They can make things very difficult, Lawrence replied. Harold Winters has been lobbying the institutional investors. He's still bitter about the West Side project you took from under him. Alex stared out at the city below. So I'm supposed to, what? Put out a casting call for a wife. Lawrence adjusted his glasses. Or you could try something radical like actually dating someone normal. Normal, Alex scoffed. Last month you set me up with an Instagram influencer who spent the entire dinner pitching her skincare line. That was a miscalculation on my part, Lawrence admitted. But I've been thinking, maybe the problem is we're looking in the wrong circles. Alex turned to eyebrow raised. What circles would those be? The ones where women see Alexander Morgan Billionaire CEO before they see Alex the guy who still eats Fruit Loops at midnight and quotes obscure 80s movies. A reluctant smile tugged at Alex's lips. Lawrence was the only person on earth who knew both sides of him, the ruthless businessman and the man who secretly rewatched The Princess Bride when he couldn't sleep. One last setup, Lawrence said. Someone completely different, no models, no socialites, no one from our usual circles. If it doesn't work, I'll never mention your personal life again. Alex sighed, relenting. Fine, one last time. But if she brings up her candle line or asks me to fund a podcast, I'm walking out. Lawrence grinned. Deal. The pattern had become predictable. Over the past 3 years, Alex had been on 37 first dates, all ending the same way. He had it down to a science. They would arrive wearing red lipstick and designer dresses that cost more than most people's monthly salary. They would order the most expensive wine on the menu without glancing at the price. The conversation would orbit around exotic vacations, social connections, and not-so-subtle hints about their investment ideas or entrepreneurial ventures. By dessert, Alex could recite their life story, privileged upbringing, curated social media presence, strategic career choices designed to intersect with wealthy men like him. And they never not once asked about him, not the real him. They asked about his jet, his vacation homes, his investment portfolio. None asked what book kept him up at night, or what he feared most, or what made him laugh until his sides hurt. Friday evening arrived with a gentle October chill settling over Boston. Alex had flown in on his private jet specifically for this dinner, having scheduled a cursory inspection of the Boston Morgan property for the following morning to justify the trip. Bella Vista was an Italian restaurant he technically owned, but rarely visited an intimate space with warm lighting, fresh lilies on each table, and a Michelin star chef he'd poached from Rome. The maitre d' recognized him immediately, ushering him to a private corner booth with a respectful nod. Your guest hasn't arrived yet, Mr. Morgan. Would you like something while you wait? Just water, thank you. Alex checked his watch, a vintage Patek Philippe that had belonged to his grandfather. He was 10 minutes early, not because he cared, but to remind himself that he didn't. Adjusting the cuffs of his tailored charcoal suit, he surveyed the room and mentally predicted what Lawrence's latest prospect would look like. Red dress probably, 6-inch heels, diamonds tasteful but obvious. A designer handbag placed strategically on the table, hair professionally styled that very afternoon. His phone buzzed with a text from Lawrence. Open mind, remember, this one's different. Alex scoffed quietly. Lawrence had said that the last 3 times. The restaurant door opened, and Alex glanced up, then froze. The woman who entered defied every prediction. She wore a simple navy wool coat slightly worn at the cuffs. Her chestnut hair was pulled back in an unfussy ponytail, a few strands framing her face naturally. No red lips, no diamonds, no designer handbag, just a canvas tote slung over one shoulder. But it was the little girl beside her that truly shattered the pattern. A child perhaps 5 years old in a pink dress and little boots clutching a well-loved stuffed cat with one missing ear. Alex blinked, genuinely taken aback. A single mother? He whispered incredulously. Lawrence, what are you playing at? The woman spotted him. Lawrence must have described him and made her way over her expression, a mix of determination and nervousness. Hi, I'm Claire, she said, her voice warm but uncertain. And this is Emma. I'm so sorry I had to bring her. My babysitter canceled last minute. I completely understand if this isn't what you expected. Her voice lacked the practiced smoothness he'd grown accustomed to. She wasn't performing. She didn't seem to recognize him as Alexander Morgan, the hotel magnate whose face occasionally graced business magazines. She was just real. Alex opened his mouth, unsure whether to excuse himself politely or call Lawrence immediately to demand an explanation. But before he could decide, the little girl Emma accidentally dropped her stuffed cat onto the restaurant floor. Without hesitation, Claire knelt down, pulled tissues from her coat pocket, and carefully wiped the stuffed animal's face and paws. Mr. Whiskers deserves to be cleaned before dinner, doesn't he? She said softly to her daughter. The simplicity of the gesture froze Alex in place. It wasn't the fall of the toy that struck him. It was how she handled it. Calm, gentle, without embarrassment or apology or performative maternal display. He had watched women grovel for his attention, had seen them fabricate entire personalities to impress him. But this small moment of genuine care felt like glimpsing something he'd forgotten existed. By the time Claire stood back up, brushing off her knees with a slightly self-conscious smile, he had already made a decision that surprised him. Well, Alex said, gesturing to the chair across from him, if Mr. Whiskers is staying for dinner, I suppose I should too. Claire's genuine smile transformed her face, reaching her eyes a remarkable shade of green flecked with amber. Thank you for understanding. Emma climbed onto her chair, immediately reaching for the breadbasket. Can I have one, Mommy? I'm starving. One roll, and yes, you're welcome, Claire prompted gently. Thank you, Emma said, selecting the largest roll with solemn deliberation. The maitre d' returned, looking momentarily flustered at the presence of a child in the upscale establishment. Alex gave a subtle nod, and within minutes a high chair appeared for Emma, along with a children's menu and crayons. So, Claire began unfolding her napkin. Lawrence mentioned you work in hotel management. That must be interesting. Alex hesitated. It wasn't exactly a lie, he did manage hotels technically. 37 of them. But something made him hold back the full truth. Yes, it keeps me busy. What about you? I'm a librarian at the Boston Public Library, children's section, which explains my extensive knowledge of dinosaurs and princesses. T-Rex is the king, Emma contributed seriously, now coloring the children's menu. But Triceratops is actually nicer. Alex found himself smiling genuinely for the first time in what felt like years. A critical distinction. I have a master's in English literature, Claire continued, but I fell in love with children's literature during my internship year. There's something magical about introducing kids to stories that might shape their entire lives. As dinner progressed, Alex realized this conversation bore no resemblance to any first date he'd had in years. They talked about favorite books growing up, strange summer jobs, embarrassing college stories. Claire told him about an ill-fated attempt to dye her hair purple her sophomore year. He admitted to a brief stint in a terrible garage band. Not once did she ask about his income or his possessions. She didn't name drop or hint at business opportunities. When he mentioned traveling to Tokyo recently, she asked what he enjoyed about Japanese culture, not which luxury hotel he'd stayed in. And through it all, Emma colored, occasionally offering profound 5-year-old observations. Clouds are just sky pillows, and spiders build tiny houses every day, but nobody says thank you. When their entrees arrived, seared scallops for Claire, steak for Alex, and buttered pasta for Emma, there was a comfortable rhythm to their conversation that felt alien yet familiar, like rediscovering something long forgotten. So what made you agree to a blind date set up by Lawrence? Alex asked, genuinely curious. Claire tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. My colleague Rachel is married to Lawrence's cousin. She's been trying to convince me to get back out there for 2 years now. She glanced at Emma with a soft expression. Being a single mom doesn't leave much time for dating. Emma's father, Alex let the question hang delicately. A shadow passed over Claire's face. David left when I was 6 months pregnant. Decided fatherhood wasn't for him after all. She straightened her shoulders slightly. He's in California now, has a new family, hasn't seen Emma since she was a baby. Alex felt a surge of unexpected anger toward this unseen man who had walked away from his responsibility, from the bright-eyed little girl, now carefully twirling pasta around her fork. His loss, Alex said simply. Claire looked up, something vulnerable and grateful in her expression. Yes, it is. The waiter appeared with dessert menus. Emma's eyes widened at the elaborate chocolate confection being served at a nearby table. Can I have chocolate cake, Mommy? Please, it's a special night. Claire hesitated, checking her watch. It's getting late, sweetie. You have school tomorrow. One small piece shouldn't hurt, Alex found himself saying. If it's all right with you, he added quickly, not wanting to overstep. Claire relented with a smile. Just this once. When the desserts arrived, chocolate cake for Emma, espresso for Claire, and tiramisu for Alex, Emma looked up from her first ecstatic bite. Are you going to be Mommy's boyfriend now? Claire nearly choked on her coffee. Emma, that's not, we're just having dinner, honey. Alex surprised himself by not feeling the usual panic at such a direct question. Well, Emma, adults usually take some time to get to know each other first. But I've enjoyed meeting both of you very much. The little girl seemed satisfied with this answer and returned to her cake with renewed focus. When the check arrived, Claire reached for her purse, a determined expression on her face. Alex stopped her with a gentle hand on hers. Please, I invited Mr. Whiskers. Remember, this one's on me. Outside Bella Vista, the October night had turned cool, a hint of the coming winter in the air. Claire buttoned Emma's coat as the child yawned widely. Thank you, she said softly, for not walking out when you saw I brought a 5-year-old third wheel. Alex found himself studying her face in the gentle glow of the street lamps, the genuine warmth in her eyes, the light dusting of freckles across her nose, the way she carried herself with quiet dignity. So different from the polished, calculated women who usually sat across from him. Thank you for a lovely evening, he replied. It was refreshing. A taxi pulled up, and Claire hesitated as if wanting to say more. Emma tugged her hand, another yawn overtaking her small face. Good night, Alex, Claire said finally, helping Emma into the cab. Good night, Claire. Good night, Emma. Bye, Mr. Alex, Emma called, waving Mr. Whiskers' paw as the taxi pulled away. Alex stood on the sidewalk long after the taillights disappeared around the corner. He hadn't asked for her number. She hadn't asked for his. No promises made, no expectations set. Yet something lingered in the cool October air. Not just curiosity, not just chemistry, hope. Back in his hotel suite, Alex loosened his tie and poured himself a scotch. He should be reviewing the quarterly reports, preparing for tomorrow's property inspection, or returning the 17 emails that had accumulated during dinner. Instead, he found himself standing at the window, watching the Boston skyline, replaying moments from the evening in his mind. Not for what was said, but for how it made him feel. Seen. Not as a wallet or a status symbol or a stepping stone, just seen. He pulled out his phone and texted Lawrence, not what I expected. The response came immediately. Good, not what I expected, or bad. Alex hesitated, then typed, she brought her 5-year-old daughter. 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times before Lawrence finally replied, worth a second date. Alex stared at the question for a long moment. Dating a single mother didn't fit his lifestyle. It wouldn't satisfy the board's desire for stability. If anything, it would complicate things further. The tabloids would have a field day. Yet he found himself typing yes. The Boston Public Library was unlike anywhere Alex had been since college, perhaps even longer. The grand staircase, the vaulted reading room, the reverent hush broken only by the soft rustle of pages turning. He felt oddly conspicuous in his casual attire, dark jeans, and a cashmere sweater instead of his usual suit. He hadn't called ahead. Part of him questioned the wisdom of showing up unannounced, but curiosity had overpowered hesitation. He picked up a random paperback from a display and wandered toward the children's section, following the sound of young voices. That's when he saw her. Claire sat cross-legged on a colorful rug surrounded by a semicircle of children reading aloud from a picture book. Her voice shifted with each character, deep and grumbly for the bear, high and squeaky for the mouse. The children watched her enraptured. Emma sat front and center, her face glowing with pride. Alex lingered at the edge of the room, oddly reluctant to interrupt. There was something magical about watching Claire in her element, animated, passionate, completely unself-conscious. The story concluded with delighted applause from the young audience. As the children dispersed, Emma spotted him and tugged her mother's sleeve, pointing. Claire looked up, surprise flashing across her face, followed by a smile that made his chest tighten inexplicably. She said something to a colleague and made her way toward him. "Alex, what are you doing here?" He held up the book in his hands, something about quantum physics he now realized. "Just browsing." Her eyes sparkled with amusement. "In the children's section, planning to brush up on your quantum mechanics." "I got a bit turned around," he admitted with a self-deprecating smile. "Though your storytelling was worth the wrong turn." Emma appeared at Claire's side, Mr. Whiskers clutched firmly under one arm. "You came back. Are you going to read with us too?" "I'm not nearly as good at voices as your mom," Alex said. Claire tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, a gesture he was beginning to recognize as a nervous habit. "We were just about to take our lunch break. There's a cafe in the courtyard if you'd like to join us, unless you have other plans." "No other plans," he said quickly, too quickly. "The cafe sounds perfect." As they walked through the grand reading room, Claire pointed out architectural details and whispered stories about famous patrons. In the sunlit courtyard cafe, Emma insisted Alex sit beside her, promptly, showing him her collection of library bookmarks. Over sandwiches and apple juice, Emma's choice for everyone, Claire studied him with newfound curiosity. "You're not just in hotel management, are you?" Alex felt a jolt of unease. "What makes you say that?" "The way the maitre d' treated you at Bella Vista. The fact that you're free for an impromptu lunch on a workday. The watch that probably costs more than my annual salary." Her tone wasn't accusatory, merely observant. "I'm a librarian. I notice details." Alex hesitated. The moment of truth had arrived sooner than expected. He could come clean, now tell her exactly who he was. But an image flashed in his mind, Claire's expression changing, the genuine warmth in her eyes replaced by the calculating look he'd seen in so many others once they realized his net worth. "I oversee several properties," he said carefully. "It gives me some flexibility with my schedule." Not a lie, but not the whole truth either. "I see," Claire replied, and something in her tone suggested she sensed the omission, but wouldn't press further. "Well, I'm glad for the flexibility today." Their conversation shifted to safer territory. Favorite movies from the 80s and 90s, best ice cream flavors. Whether audiobooks counted as real reading, Claire surprisingly argued they absolutely did. Emma, having finished her sandwich, tugged on Alex's sleeve. "Do you know how to tie shoes? I'm learning, but it's hard." "I think I remember how," Alex said solemnly, kneeling down to help with her untied shoelace. As he demonstrated the bunny ears method, he glanced up to find Claire watching them, an unreadable expression on her face. Something soft and calm and hopeful all at once. "You're good with her," Claire said later as they walked Emma back to the children's section for afternoon story time. Alex shrugged. "She makes it easy." "Not everyone thinks so. Most men I've met run for the hills when they realize I'm a package deal." Before Alex could respond, an older woman with silver hair and kind eyes approached them. "Claire dear, the Thornton Foundation called about the fundraiser. They need to confirm speakers by Friday." Her gaze shifted curiously to Alex. "Mrs. Peterson, this is Alex," Claire said. "Alex, this is Margaret Peterson, our head librarian and my mentor." "Pleasure to meet you," Alex extended his hand. Mrs. Peterson studied him with shrewd eyes that seemed to see more than he was comfortable revealing. "You look familiar. Have we met before?" A flutter of anxiety passed through him. His photo occasionally appeared in business publications and local society pages. "I don't believe so. I have one of those faces." Her expression suggested she wasn't convinced. "Well, any friend of Claire's is welcome here. She's our treasure, you know. Turned our children's program around single-handedly." Claire blushed. "Hardly single-handed. The whole team—" "Modesty," Mrs. Peterson said to Alex with a conspiratorial smile. "Another one of her virtues. Don't let this one get away too easily." She patted Claire's arm and continued on her way. "I'm so sorry about that," Claire said once Mrs. Peterson was out of earshot, her cheeks still pink. "She's been trying to set me up with every man who walks into the library since Emma was born." "She cares about you." "She does. After my father died and my mother moved to Arizona for her health, Mrs. Peterson became a sort of surrogate grandmother to Emma and me. Alex felt a pang of something like envy. His own parents, his father lost to a heart attack, his mother to her grief, an eventual remarriage to a man who had little interest in his stepson, had left a void no success could fill. The Boston Children's Book Festival is this weekend, Claire said, breaking into his thoughts. Emma and I go every year. They have readings, signings, activities for kids. It's quite something if you're free. The invitation hung in the air between them. Alex should say no. He had a board to appease a company to run a carefully managed life that had no room for children's book festivals. I'd like that, he heard himself say instead. Emma returned from putting away Mr. Whiskers in her mother's office, her small face lighting up when she saw Alex was still there. Mommy, can Mr. Alex come to Pancake Saturday too? Claire looked mortified. Emma, honey, Mr. Alex probably has other plans this weekend. What's Pancake Saturday? Alex asked, intrigued. Every Saturday morning we make pancakes shaped like whatever Emma's currently obsessed with. This month it's dolphins. Dolphins are very smart, Emma informed him seriously. They have their own language. Looking at her earnest little face, Alex felt something shift inside him. Plates of armor moving, letting in light where there had been only darkness. I'm not very good at dolphin pancakes, he admitted, but I'm willing to learn. Walking back to his waiting car, a discreet town car rather than his usual Bentley, Alex felt lighter than he had in years. He had Claire's phone number now. Plans for Saturday. The prospect of something he hadn't allowed himself to want in a very long time. His phone buzzed with a text from Lawrence. How did it go with the librarian? Alex typed back. I'm seeing her again Saturday. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, and appeared and again. Finally, the board meets Tuesday. Should I put her on the agenda as your new stability plan? The question jolted Alex back to reality. The board, the ultimatum, the reason he'd agreed to this date in the first place. Claire wasn't part of any plan. She was genuine and real and completely unaware of who he really was. And if she found out he'd approached her as a strategic move to appease his board, Alex stared at his phone, suddenly cold despite the autumn sunshine. What had started as a reluctant blind date had become something unexpectedly meaningful. But it had begun with deception, a sin of omission that grew larger with every moment he didn't correct it. No, he texted back to Lawrence. Keep her out of it. This is different. Lawrence replied immediately, different how? Alex watched a young couple pass by on the sidewalk, the man pushing a stroller, the woman laughing at something he said. Ordinary people living ordinary lives free from the complexities of his world. I don't know yet, he wrote honestly, but I want to find out. The Children's Book Festival transformed Boston Common into a vibrant wonderland of tents, stages, and colorful banners fluttering in the autumn breeze. Hundreds of families wandered between booths where authors signed books, illustrators sketched characters, and children gathered for storytelling sessions under billowing canopies. Alex felt distinctly out of place. He had traded his usual business attire for dark jeans and a casual sweater, but still felt as though he wore an invisible sign, corporate CEO who hasn't attended a children's event since his own childhood. Mr. Alex, Emma's voice cut through his uncertainty. She rushed toward him, pink dress bouncing with each step, Mr. Whiskers clutched in one hand and a balloon shaped like a dragon in the other. Claire followed at a more measured pace, her smile widening when their eyes met. She wore a simple floral dress under a denim jacket, her chestnut hair loose around her shoulders. The autumn sunlight caught the golden strands among the brown. You came, she said, a hint of surprise in her voice. I said I would. Alex bent down to Emma's level. That's quite a dragon you have there. His name is Sparkle, Emma informed him solemnly. He breathes glitter instead of fire because he's a peaceful dragon. Alex nodded with equal seriousness. Very practical. Fire is overrated. Claire laughed, the sound warming something long dormant inside him. We were about to check out the illustrator's tent. Would you like to join us? The day unfolded with an ease that surprised Alex. He followed Claire and Emma from tent to tent, watching as Emma collected author signatures in a small notebook, her face a picture of solemn concentration when meeting her literary heroes. She's been practicing her handwriting for weeks, Claire whispered to him as they watched Emma carefully spell her name for a bearded author of dragon adventures. She wants them to be able to read it properly. At the craft tent, Alex found himself sitting cross-legged on a blanket, helping Emma create a diorama of her favorite story scene. His phone buzzed repeatedly in his pocket emails and texts from Lawrence about Tuesday's board meeting. But for the first time in years, Alex let work wait. "You're good at cutting out tiny trees," Emma observed, watching him carefully trim green paper. "I have many hidden talents," Alex replied with mock seriousness. "Like what else?" Emma pressed. Alex pretended to think hard. "I can balance a spoon on my nose for almost a minute." Emma's eyes widened. "Show me." Claire appeared with 3 cups of hot chocolate, catching the tail end of the conversation. "What are we showing?" "Mr. Alex can balance spoons on his nose." Claire raised an eyebrow. "This I have to see." Surrounded by children and parents at the craft tent, Alexander Morgan, who had conducted billion-dollar negotiations without breaking a sweat, found himself balancing a plastic spoon on his nose, while a 5-year-old girl counted seconds loudly, and her mother laughed until tears formed in her eyes. When the spoon finally fell at 47 seconds, the small crowd that had gathered applauded. Alex took an exaggerated bow, feeling lighter than he had in years. "Where did you learn that particular skill?" Claire asked as they walked toward the main stage area. "Princeton. There was a series of rather undignified competitions in my fraternity. The spoon trick won me $20 in bragging rights for a semester." Claire smiled. "Not the sort of story I expected from you." "What did you expect?" "I'm not sure. You seem different from most men I meet." "Different good or different concerning?" "Still deciding," she replied, but her smile suggested she was leaning toward the former. The afternoon progressed with storytelling sessions, puppet shows, and face painting. Emma now sported a delicate butterfly design across her cheek and forehead. Alex bought them all ice cream, despite the October chill, and they sat on a bench watching a folk musician sing interactive songs that had children dancing in front of the stage. "So tell me about your dream bookshop," Alex said during a quiet moment. Emma mentioned something about fairy lights and big pillows. Claire's face lit up. "It's been my fantasy since library school. A small, independent children's bookstore with a dedicated story nook. Comfortable seating, good lighting, weekly reading programs." She gestured toward the festival around them. "Something that captures this feeling, the magic of discovering stories but available year-round. A community place. Why haven't you pursued it?" Her expression dimmed slightly. "Reality. Commercial rents in Boston are astronomical. Single mom librarian salary student loans." She shrugged. "Maybe someday." "The world needs more bookstores," Alex said, thinking of the vacant historic building near the library he'd noticed yesterday, a building that Morgan Hotel's commercial real estate division actually owned. "Enough about my pipe dreams," Claire said. "What about you? Did you always want to work in hotel management?" The question struck uncomfortably close to his ongoing deception. "I grew up around hotels," he answered carefully. "My father was in the business, but I wanted to be an architect initially." "What changed?" "My father died when I was in college. Heart attack. Left the family business in trouble." This much was true. "I stepped in to help temporarily and just never stepped back out." Claire studied his face. "Do you regret it?" No one had asked him that question in years. "Sometimes. I enjoyed designing spaces, creating environments that made people feel something. But there's satisfaction in what I do now, too." "Building something meaningful matters," Claire said, "whatever shape it takes." Emma returned from the dance area flushed and happy. "Can we go to the puppet show now?" "It's about a pirate cat." The Pirate Cat puppet show was followed by a children's book award ceremony, then a balloon artist who created elaborate animals. Throughout it all, Alex found himself watching Claire as much as the performances, the way she laughed, without reservation, the gentle firmness with which she guided Emma, the passion in her voice when discussing books with fellow attendees. "Mr. Alex, do you have kids?" Emma asked suddenly as they walked toward the exit, the festival winding down as afternoon turned to evening. Alex felt Claire tense beside him. "No, Emma, I don't," he answered honestly. "Why not? You'd be good at it. You cut trees right and no spoon tricks." Claire interjected gently. "Emma, that's a personal question." "It's all right," Alex assured her, then addressed Emma directly. "I guess I never met the right person to have a family with." Emma considered this seriously. "You could have a family with us. We have space. And Mommy makes good pancakes." "Emma, Claire's cheeks flushed bright pink. "I'm so sorry," she whispered to Alex. But Alex wasn't offended. Something about the child's innocent suggestion pierced straight through his carefully constructed defenses. For a brief, startling moment, he could see it: weekend pancakes. Bedtime stories, a life measured in more than quarterly profits and hotel openings. "Thank you for the invitation, Emma," he said gently. "The pancakes do sound excellent." As the festival crowd thinned, they walked toward the street where Alex had arranged for a car to pick them up. The autumn evening had grown cool, and Emma yawned widely, the excitement of the day catching up with her. "I can give you both a ride home," Alex offered. Claire hesitated. "We don't want to take you out of your way." "It's no trouble at all." The town car arrived sleek and black, the driver opening doors with formal efficiency. Claire raised an eyebrow but said nothing as they settled into the leather seats, Emma immediately snuggling against her mother's side with Mr. Whiskers. The drive to Claire's apartment in Cambridge was quiet, Emma drowsily pointing out landmarks through the window before her eyes grew heavy. By the time they arrived at a modest brick building, she was asleep against Claire's shoulder. "Let me help," Alex whispered carefully, lifting Emma from the car. The child stirred but didn't wake, instinctively wrapping her arms around his neck as Claire collected their festival souvenirs. They walked up 2 flights of stairs to a corner apartment. Claire fumbled with her keys one-handed while holding the festival mementos, and Alex waited patiently with Emma's warm weight against his chest. Something about this moment, standing in a dimly lit hallway holding a sleeping child waiting for a door to open, felt achingly domestic in a way that stirred unfamiliar yearning. Claire's apartment was small but inviting, bookshelves lining nearly every wall, comfortable furniture, children's artwork displayed proudly on the refrigerator. A modest space made warm through careful attention. "Her bedroom is this way," Claire whispered, leading him down a short hallway to a room painted soft yellow with glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling and more bookshelves packed with colorful titles. Alex gently laid Emma on her bed. Claire removed the child's shoes and pulled a blanket over her, placing Mr. Whiskers within easy reach. She brushed a strand of hair from her daughter's forehead with such tenderness that Alex had to look away, feeling like an intruder on something sacred. They tiptoed back to the living room where Claire offered him coffee in a whispered voice. "I should go," he said reluctantly. "It's getting late." "Thank you for today," Claire said, walking him to the door. Emma had a wonderful time. We both did. In the dim light of her entryway, with the sounds of the city muffled beyond her walls, Alex was struck by how different Claire looked from the women he typically dated, no makeup, slightly rumpled from the day's activities. A small butterfly face painting smudge on her wrist where she must have rubbed it accidentally. She was authentically herself in a way that made the carefully curated perfection of his usual companions seem hollow. "I had a wonderful time too," he said, meaning it more deeply than she could know. Later, in the quiet of his hotel suite, Alex found himself unable to focus on the quarterly projections Lawrence had sent over. His mind kept returning to the image of Claire, laughing in the autumn sunlight, of Emma's solemn face as she introduced her dragon balloon of the small apartment filled with books and warmth, rather than expensive emptiness. His phone chimed with an incoming text from Lawrence. "Board meeting confirmed for Tuesday, 10 a.m. Kent wants to discuss leadership stability again." The reminder of his corporate reality landed like a stone in the still pond of his thoughts. Tuesday loomed, the day the board expected progress reports on his personal life reforms, the very reason he'd agreed to meet Claire in the first place. But nothing about today had felt like fulfilling a corporate obligation. It had felt real, genuine, and increasingly complicated by his continued half-truths. Alex closed his laptop and walked to the window. The Boston skyline glittered against the night sky, beautiful but distant, like the life he'd built for himself. For the first time, he wondered if the heights he'd reached were worth what he'd sacrificed to get there. The following Tuesday, Alex sat at the head of the Morgan Hotel's boardroom table, his expression betraying nothing as Richard Kent addressed the assembled members. "Before we discuss the Tokyo property, there's the matter of personal stability we raised last week." Kent's silver eyebrows raised meaningfully. "Any developments to share, Alex?" 12 expectant faces turned toward him. Alex loosened his tie slightly. "My personal life remains personal," he said evenly. "The Tokyo deal is projected to increase shareholder value by 12% within 18 months. I suggest we focus on that." Kent's expression hardened. We've been clear about our concerns. Meridian Hotels continues to attract our family values investors. Their CEO is a hypocrite who's having an affair with his tennis instructor, Alex interrupted coolly. If we're trading gossip, an uncomfortable ripple went around the table. The point remains, Melissa Chen interjected, that stability matters to our investors. We need to present an image of reliability and traditional values. The Winters scandal was 5 years ago, Alex finished, and our stock has risen 64% since then. I believe results speak louder than tabloid headlines. The discussion grew heated with board members pressing for specifics about Alex's plans for his personal life, while he deflected with increasingly impressive financial projections. Throughout it all, Lawrence remained conspicuously quiet, studying his tablet with unusual concentration. Finally, Kent called for a 15-minute break. As the room emptied, Lawrence approached Alex with his tablet extended. "You might want to see this," he said quietly. On the screen was a tabloid website. The headline made Alex's blood run cold. Morgan Hotel CEO's secret family day, who is the mystery mom. Below was a grainy photo clearly taken at the Children's Book Festival, Alex helping Emma with her craft project, Claire laughing beside them. The photo was distant enough that Claire's features weren't clear, but there was no mistaking Alex. "How did they?" Alex began. "Someone recognized you," Lawrence said. "Sent it to a gossip blog. It's already picked up traction." Alex fought to keep his expression neutral as board members filtered back into the room, several glancing at their phones with new interest. "Well," Kent said as the meeting reconvened, "it seems congratulations might be in order after all, Alex, though we would have appreciated being informed directly rather than via TMZ. Alex stood buttoning his suit jacket with deliberate calm. "If you'll excuse me, I have an urgent matter to attend to." Without waiting for a response, he strode from the room, Lawrence hurrying after him. "Alex, wait. Get the PR team to issue no comments, then find out who took that photo." "That's not the priority right now," Lawrence countered. "Claire is. Have you warned her?" The question stopped Alex cold. Claire, who valued her privacy and her daughter's safety. Claire, who still didn't know who he really was. Claire, who was about to find herself thrust into a spotlight she never asked for. "I need to see her, now." Boston Public Library's majestic reading room hummed with quiet activity. Alex moved through the space with purpose, heading directly for the children's section. Instead of Claire, he found her colleague Rachel shelving books. "Excuse me," Alex said. "I'm looking for Claire Bennett." Rachel looked up, recognition dawning. "You're Alex. Claire mentioned you." Her expression turned concerned. "She called in sick today. First time in 3 years. Is everything okay?" Alex's unease deepened. "Did she say what was wrong?" "Just that she and Emma needed a personal day." Rachel studied him curiously. "Should I tell her you stop us, please, and that it's urgent I speak with her?" Outside the library, Alex tried calling Claire's number again, straight to voicemail as it had been all morning. His third message was more direct than the previous two. "Claire, I know you've probably seen the photo by now. I can explain everything. Please call me back." By evening, with still no word from Claire, Alex made the decision to go to her apartment. The lights were on behind her windows, but when he knocked, there was no answer. "Claire," he called softly, knocking again. "It's Alex. Please, I just want to talk." The door opened a few inches, the security chain still engaged. Claire's face appeared in the gap, her expression guarded. "You need to leave," she said quietly. "Claire, please. Let me explain." "Explain what? That you're Alexander Morgan, CEO of Morgan Hotels, that you lied about who you are, or that my daughter's face is all over the internet because of you?" Her words hit him like physical blows. "I never meant for any of this to happen," he said. "I wasn't completely honest about my position, but everything else, everything about us, was real." "Was it?" Claire's voice trembled slightly. "Because I did some research today, Mr. Morgan, about your board's ultimatum, about how you need to settle down to appease your shareholders." Her green eyes flashed with hurt. "Was I just a convenient solution to your corporate image problem? The wholesome single mom and her adorable daughter, perfect for rehabilitating your Playboy reputation?" "No," Alex said firmly, "that's not what this was." "Then what was it?" "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you used me, used my daughter as props in your corporate theater. The elevator at the end of the hall dinged, revealing an elderly neighbor with a small dog. Claire stepped back. "I can't do this right now," she whispered. "Please just go." The door closed with a soft click, leaving Alex alone in the hallway, the weight of his deception crushing his chest. Back in his hotel room, Alex paced like a caged animal. He had built his life around control, controlling his company, his image, his emotions. But everything was spiraling beyond his grasp. His phone rang. Lawrence. "The board saw the tabloid coverage," Lawrence said without preamble. "They're actually pleased." Kent called it humanizing and relatable. "They're talking about featuring your relationship in the next shareholder report as evidence of your evolved priorities." Alex's grip tightened on the phone. "There is no relationship to feature. She wants nothing to do with me." A heavy pause. "I'm sorry, Alex. I thought she was different." "She is different," Alex snapped. "She's genuine and intelligent and caring, and I lied to her face. You omitted certain details." "Don't." Alex cut him off. "Don't try to minimize this. I deceived her, and now she and her daughter are paying the price." After hanging up, Alex stood at the window staring unseeing at the city lights. For the first time in his adult life, he didn't have a strategic plan, a carefully calculated next move. He only knew he couldn't leave things this way. 2 days passed with no response from Claire, despite multiple messages. Alex threw himself into work, approving the Tokyo deal and initiating 3 new property developments with a cold efficiency that had his executives walking on eggshells around him. On the 3rd day, his phone rang with an unfamiliar number. "Mr. Morgan, this is Margaret Peterson from Boston Public Library." Alex straightened. "Mrs. Peterson, how did you get this number?" "Librarians are excellent researchers," she replied crisply. "I'm calling about Claire." "Is she all right?" "No, she's not. She's hurt and humiliated. Her daughter came home from kindergarten, crying yesterday because classmates showed her the internet photos. Claire is considering relocating to Arizona to be near her mother." The news hit Alex like a physical blow. "I never meant to harm either of them." "Intentions are irrelevant when compared to actions," Mrs. Peterson said. "The question is, what are you going to do about it now?" "I've tried contacting her. She won't speak to me." "Perhaps you're not saying anything worth hearing." The older woman's voice softened slightly. "Claire Bennett is the most genuine person I know. She doesn't care about wealth or status. She cares about honesty, integrity, and her daughter's well-being." "I care about those things too," Alex said. "Then prove it," Mrs. Peterson said simply and hung up. That evening, as Alex sat alone in his hotel suite reviewing contracts, his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Boston Children's Hospital Fundraiser Gala. Tomorrow night, Claire will be there representing the library's literacy program. Black tie. If you're serious, show up with more than just words." The message was unsigned, but Alex suspected Mrs. Peterson's hand. The following evening, the Boston Children's Hospital Gala transformed the historic ballroom of the Fairmont Copley Plaza into a glittering showcase of the city's wealthiest philanthropists. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over tables adorned with elaborate floral arrangements, while a string quartet played softly in the corner. Alex arrived alone, declining to bring the date his PR team had suggested would balance the narrative. He moved through the crowd with practiced ease, accepting greetings from business associates while scanning the room for Claire. He spotted her near the literacy program display, a simple exhibit showcasing the library's work with hospitalized children. She wore a modest emerald gown that matched her eyes, her chestnut hair swept into an elegant updo. Even among Boston's elite in their designer gowns and family jewels, she stood out a natural beauty, unaware of her own radiance. Their eyes met across the room. Claire's widened in surprise, then narrowed slightly. She turned deliberately back to her conversation with a hospital board member. Alex was making his way toward her when a familiar, unwelcome voice stopped him. "Alexander, what a pleasant surprise." Rebecca Winters stood before him in a striking red gown, diamonds glittering at her throat. Her smile was as practiced as it was predatory. "Rebecca," he acknowledged coldly. "If you'll excuse me." She placed a manicured hand on his arm. "Not so fast. I've been following your little domestic drama in the press. Quite the departure from your usual type." Her gaze flicked dismissively toward Claire. "The board must be desperate indeed." Alex removed her hand firmly. "You know nothing about her or my reasons for being here." Oh, I know more than you think, Rebecca smiled. I know about the board's ultimatum, your need for a stable relationship to reassure investors. She leaned closer. Does she know she's just a corporate strategy, a convenient prop to rehabilitate your image? That's not what she is. No. Rebecca raised a perfectly arched eyebrow. Then why haven't you told her who you really are? Why the charade of being just another hotel manager? She sighed dramatically. Poor thing, she probably thinks what you have is genuine. Alex's jaw tightened. Stay away from her, Rebecca. Or what? Rebecca's smile turned razor sharp. I'm simply looking out for a fellow woman. She deserves to know exactly what she's gotten herself into, don't you think? With a parting smirk, Rebecca glided away through the crowd directly toward Claire. Alex moved quickly, but the room was packed with donors and hospital staff. By the time he reached Claire's display, Rebecca was already there, one hand on Claire's arm, leaning close to speak in her ear. Claire's face had gone pale, her expression frozen in polite stillness that didn't reach her eyes. As Alex approached, Rebecca straightened with a satisfied smile. Alexander, I was just introducing myself to your friend. The pause before friend spoke volumes. We were having such an illuminating conversation about corporate strategy and image management. Claire's eyes met his, hurt and betrayal evident in their depths. Claire, Alex began, whatever she told you. Excuse me, Claire said quietly. I need some air. She turned and walked with measured dignity toward the terrace doors. Well, Rebecca said with false sympathy, that's awkward. Alex leaned close, his voice dangerously soft. If you ever approach her again, I will make it my personal mission to expose your father's tax fraud in the Singapore developments. You remember the ones you asked me about during Pillow Talk 5 years ago? I kept the records. Rebecca's smug expression faltered. That's right, Alex continued. I can prove you were mining me for insider information. The statute of limitations hasn't expired. Think about that before you meddle in my personal life again. Without waiting for her response, Alex followed Claire to the terrace. The October night was cold, the terrace deserted except for Claire, who stood alone at the stone balustrade, staring out at the city lights. She didn't turn as he approached, but her shoulders tensed, acknowledging his presence. I know you want me to leave you alone, Alex said quietly, but please give me 2 minutes. Claire remained silent, which he took as permission to continue. Rebecca Winters is my ex-fiancée. She's the reason I have trust issues. Whatever she told you was designed to hurt both of us. She said you were ordered by your board to find a stable relationship or risk your position as CEO, Claire said, still looking out at the city. She said I was selected as the perfect candidate to rehabilitate your Playboy image, wholesome, unassuming, with an adorable child as a bonus. Her voice wavered slightly. Tell me that's not true. Alex moved to stand beside her, careful to maintain distance. The board did pressure me to settle down. That's why I agreed to one last blind date arranged by Lawrence. But from the moment you walked into that restaurant with Emma, nothing about my interest in you has been about appeasing the board or managing my image. Claire finally turned to face him, her expression guarded. Then why lie about who you were? Because for once, I wanted someone to see me, just me. Not my net worth, not my company, not what I could do for their career or social standing. He ran a hand through his hair in frustration. I've spent 5 years surrounded by people who want something from me. Then I met you, and you just wanted conversation over dinner. Do you know how rare that is in my world? That doesn't justify lying. No, it doesn't, Alex agreed. I should have told you the truth after our first evening together. I meant to. But the more time we spent together, the more I feared losing the one person who seemed to like me for myself. Claire shook her head, a sad smile touching her lips. The irony is, I wouldn't have cared who you were. Your job, your money, none of that mattered to me. What mattered was your honesty, how you treated Emma, the man I thought you were. I am that man, Alex insisted. Everything else I shared with you was real. My feelings for you are real. Claire looked at him for a long moment, something vulnerable flickering in her eyes. Even if I believed you, it doesn't change the reality. Our worlds are too different. The media attention alone, she stopped composing herself. Emma already came home crying once. I won't put her through that. I can fix the media situation, and Alex said. I can protect you both. You can't control everything, Alexander. That's the problem. Claire pulled her wrap tighter around her shoulders. I need to get back inside. The library's presentation is in 15 minutes. As she turned to leave, Alex asked, is it true you're moving to Arizona? Claire paused. I'm considering it. My mother could use the help, and Emma would be away from the spotlight. Please don't make any decisions yet, Alex said. Give me one chance to make things right. Claire studied him, uncertainty warring with resolution in her expression. The board meeting that Rebecca mentioned. When is it tomorrow morning? Then I'll wait until tomorrow evening for your call, Claire said. After that, I need to do what's best for Emma and myself. With that, she walked back into the glittering ballroom, leaving Alex alone in the cold night air, with the weight of tomorrow's decision pressing down on him like a physical force. Back in his hotel suite, Alex paced restlessly. Tomorrow's board meeting loomed, the quarterly session where major strategic decisions were approved. The same board that had pressured him into finding stability in his personal life now stood between him and any hope of a future with Claire. His phone rang. Lawrence. The board agenda for tomorrow includes official approval of your personal life developments, Lawrence said without preamble. Kent is practically giddy. He's talking about a feature in the annual report, Morgan Hotel's Family Values for a Family Brand. They want to meet Claire. That's not happening, Alex replied firmly. Alex, be reasonable. This is exactly what they wanted. Your reputation is transforming overnight from Playboy billionaire to family-oriented CEO. The PR department is calculating a 3-point stock increase based on the new perception alone. Alex stopped pacing, a cold clarity settling over him. Draft a statement of my resignation as CEO effective immediately. Silence on the line. Then, you can't be serious. I'll retain my position as chairman of the board, but I'm stepping down from day-to-day operations. Because of this woman, Alex, you've spent 15 years building Morgan Hotels. You can't throw that away for someone you've known for 2 weeks. I'm not throwing anything away, Alex replied, a strange calm replacing his earlier turmoil. I'm choosing what matters most. After ending the call, Alex sat at the desk and began drafting the most important document of his career. Not a hotel acquisition or merger agreement, but a letter that would reshape his future in ways no business deal ever could. The boardroom had fallen silent when Alex finished his announcement 3 weeks ago. His resignation as CEO and transition to non-executive chairman had sent shockwaves through Morgan Hotels. The business press had run wild with speculation, health crisis, hostile takeover, preparation, burnout. Only Lawrence knew the truth. Alexander Morgan had chosen love over power. The board had grudgingly accepted his decision after he presented Lawrence's 5-year strategic plan. The markets had initially panicked, then stabilized, as Lawrence proved himself a capable successor. And Rebecca Winters had disappeared to Monaco after a thinly veiled threat from Alex about revealing her father's tax schemes. But none of that corporate drama had mattered when Claire refused to take his calls or respond to his messages. The photo leak had been devastating for her and Emma, exactly as Rebecca had intended. Despite his best efforts to shield them through his legal team and PR resources, the damage had been done. Claire's trust, so carefully earned, had been shattered. Until yesterday, when a local news station had covered the Boston Public Library's children's reading event. There, in a moment of unscripted honesty, Emma had looked directly into the camera during an interview segment and said the words that gave Alex hope. If Mr. A sees this, I want him to know Mommy and I miss him. Please don't stay gone forever. Now snowflakes drifted lazily through the Boston air as Alex stood at the entrance to the library, heart pounding, a small white pastry box from Hartwell's bakery clutched in his hands. Inside were apple cinnamon muffins, Claire's favorite from her college days, and a note he had rewritten a dozen times. The historic McKim building loomed before him, its Renaissance revival architecture dusted in white, transforming it into something from a fairy tale. Alex took a deep breath, watching it form a cloud in the frigid air. This wasn't a business negotiation. This was Claire and Emma, a chance he was terrified to lose. He stepped through the grand entrance, the warmth of the library's interior, a stark contrast to the winter chill outside. The familiar scent of books and polished oak enveloped him as he made his way past the reference desk and through the main reading room. A few patrons looked up curiously as he passed. His face had been in the business section of the Boston Globe more frequently since his resignation announcement. The children's section was tucked away in its own wing, designed to contain the inevitable energetic whispers and occasional laughter that accompanied young readers. Alex paused at the arched entryway, scanning the colorful space until he found them. Emma spotted him first, her small face lighting up with recognition. She jumped up from her cross-legged position on the reading circle rug, accidentally dropping Mr. Whiskers in her excitement. The worn tabby cat toy with its missing ear and visible stitching from multiple repairs tumbled onto the library carpet. "Mommy, it's Mr. A!" she called out, already scrambling toward him, completely forgetting her beloved stuffed companion in a way that spoke volumes about her excitement. Claire turned sharply at her daughter's voice, a stack of picture books still clutched in her arms. Her honey-brown hair was tied back in its usual practical ponytail, but a few strands had escaped to frame her face. Her green eyes flecked with amber, those expressive eyes that had haunted his dreams, registered shock, then wariness, and something else he couldn't quite identify. Emma reached him first, stopping just short of hugging him, suddenly shy despite her initial enthusiasm. "You came back," she said, her voice small but hopeful. "I did," Alex replied gently, crouching down to her level. "I missed you, Emma." Claire approached slowly, setting her books on the nearest table. She wore a simple navy sweater over jeans practical for her work, but Alex thought she had never looked more beautiful. The wariness in her expression cut him deeply, a physical reminder of the trust he had broken. "Alex," she said, his name a careful neutral. Neither welcome nor rejection. He stood meeting her gaze. "Claire." For a moment, they simply looked at each other, the weight of everything unsaid hanging between them. Then Alex held out the pastry box. "These are for you," he said. "Apple cinnamon muffins from Hartwell's." Claire glanced down at the box, recognition flickering across her features. "You remembered." "I remember everything about our conversations," Alex said quietly. She hesitated before taking the box, her fingers carefully avoiding contact with his. She untied the red string, lifted the lid, and caught the familiar scent of cinnamon and baked apples. On top of the muffins lay a folded note. "Read it," Alex said. "Please." Mrs. Peterson, the library director, approached, her silver-rimmed glasses perched on her nose. Her gray hair was styled in the same elegant bob she'd worn since the 1980s, her cardigan adorned with a vintage brooch that had likely witnessed decades of library stories. "Claire, why don't you take your break now? I'll watch Emma for a bit," she suggested, her eyes flicking between them with the knowing wisdom of someone who had observed countless human dramas unfold among her beloved bookshelves. Claire nodded gratefully, then gestured toward a small staff room off the main area. "We can talk in there." The room was simple, a worn couch and a faded floral pattern that had been stylish during the Clinton administration, a small round table with mismatched chairs, a mini refrigerator humming in the corner, and a bulletin board covered with staff announcements and children's thank you drawings. A dusty radio on the shelf was tuned to the local NPR station, volume low. Claire set the pastry box on the table, but remained standing, maintaining distance between them. She unfolded the note, her eyes moving over the words Alex had carefully written. "Claire, I may not be perfect, but if you'll let me, I'll spend the rest of my life learning how to be the kind of man who is worthy of you. And Emma, the truth is I've spent years building walls to protect myself from being hurt again. I became so focused on success that I forgot what really matters. Until I met you, you saw me, not Alexander Morgan, CEO, just Alex, a man with flaws and fears and hopes. You gave me a glimpse of what life could be filled with: bedtime stories and sticky ice cream cones and honest conversations. I should have told you the truth from the beginning. I was afraid that once you knew who I was, everything would change. That was my mistake, and I'll regret it always. I don't expect your forgiveness, but I needed you to know you are enough, more than enough. You are everything. Always, Alex." Her eyes shimmered when she looked up, not with anger, but something softer, more complicated. "I thought you just disappeared," she whispered. "That it didn't mean anything to you." "It meant everything," he said, taking a careful step forward. "But I thought I'd lost you, and maybe I was afraid to find out for sure." Claire folded the note carefully, her fingers tracing the creases. "Why did you lie to me, Alex? Why couldn't you just tell me who you really were?" The question deserved complete honesty. Alex drew a deep breath, searching for the right words. "After Rebecca, I built walls around myself. Every woman I met saw the wealth, the position, the catch. Not me. When I met you and you didn't recognize me, it was liberating. For the first time in years, someone was getting to know me for myself, not for what I could provide. He moved to the window, watching the snow continue to fall over Copley Square. I told myself it was harmless, that I'd tell you eventually. But the longer I waited, the harder it became. I was afraid that once you knew, everything would change. It did change, Claire said, her voice steady despite the emotion in her eyes. Not because you're rich or powerful, but because you didn't trust me enough to decide for myself how I felt about who you are. The simple truth of her words struck him deeply. He had been so concerned about being judged for his wealth that he'd forgotten the more fundamental issue of trust. You're right, he acknowledged. I should have trusted you. That was my greatest mistake. Claire sank into one of the chairs, her fingers still holding his note. Rebecca came to see me, after you left that night. Alex tensed. What did she say? She told me you were only interested in me because your board was pressuring you to settle down, that I was a convenient solution to a PR problem. Claire's eyes met his, searching. Was she telling the truth? No, Alex said firmly, moving to sit across from her. Yes, the board was pressuring me. But that's not why I sought you out at the library, not why I kept coming back, not why I... He hesitated, then finished softly. Not why I fell in love with you. The words hung in the air between them, unexpected but undeniable. Claire's eyes widened. You don't have to say that. I know, Alex replied. I'm saying it because it's true. I love the way you care so deeply about connecting children with books. I love your honesty and your strength. I love how you knelt down to clean Mr. Whiskers without a second thought about your clothes or who might be watching. I love that you've created such a wonderful life for Emma, despite everything. He leaned forward, his voice earnest. Claire, you helped me remember what matters. Not the hotels, not the board meetings, not the acquisitions. Connection, purpose, joy. A tear slipped down her cheek, which she quickly brushed away. Alex, our worlds are so different. They don't have to be, he said gently. These past weeks, I've been making changes. I've restructured my role at Morgan Hotels. I'm staying on as chairman, but I've promoted Lawrence to CEO. I want more time for the things that matter. Claire looked surprised. You did that? But your company means everything to you. Not everything, Alex said softly. Not anymore. They sat at the small table in the staff room, steam rising from the muffins between them. Claire broke the silence with an unexpected question. Do you remember when bookstores were everywhere before the big chains closed and everyone switched to e-readers? Alex nodded. I do. My college town had 3 independent bookshops within walking distance of campus. There was something irreplaceable about wandering the aisles, discovering something you weren't looking for. That's what I want to create again, Claire said softly. Not just a store, but an experience. Like when we were kids and a trip to the bookstore was an adventure. When people sent actual letters instead of texts and mixtapes instead of playlists. Mixtapes took serious commitment. Alex agreed with a smile. Hours spent by the radio waiting to record just the right song. Only to have the D talk over the intro, Claire added, a genuine laugh, escaping her for the first time since he'd arrived. A tentative knock interrupted them. The door cracked open and Emma's small face appeared, her expression hopeful. Mrs. Peterson said I should check if you need anything, she said, though it was clear from her eyes that she had her own agenda. Claire smiled at her daughter. We're fine, sweetheart. Emma hesitated, then looked at Alex. Are you staying this time? The simple question held such weight. Alex glanced at Claire, then back to Emma. I would very much like to if your mom says it's okay. Emma turned expectant eyes to her mother. Claire's expression softened as she looked between them, something resolving in her gaze. Emma, could you give us just a few more minutes? She asked gently. Emma nodded solemnly. Don't forget the muffins, she instructed before disappearing, pulling the door closed behind her. Claire reached for the pastry box, opening it and breathing in the cinnamon-scented warmth. She's missed you, she admitted, breaking a muffin in half and offering him part. We both have. Alex accepted the offering, understanding its significance went beyond the simple sharing of food. There is something else you should know, he said, setting the muffin aside untouched. I found David. Claire stiffened. Emma's father, why? Because he hurt you, Alex said simply, and I wanted to understand what kind of man would walk away from his child. What did he say? Enough for me to record him admitting that he lied in your custody case, that he never actually wanted visitation rights, he just wanted to hurt you for refusing to get an abortion. Alex withdrew a USB drive from his pocket and placed it on the table. He's also signed a legal agreement giving up any future claims to custody or visitation. You and Emma never have to worry about him again. Claire stared at the small device emotions warring on her face. You did this for us. I would do anything for you both, Alex said quietly. I know I've made mistakes. I know I hurt you. But if you're willing, I'd like a second chance. Not because of my position or what I can provide, but because I think we could build something real together. Claire was silent for a long moment, studying his face as if searching for something. Then she reached across the table and took his hand. Her touch, so simple yet so profound, sent warmth spreading through him. I missed you, she admitted softly. I kept thinking about calling you, but then I'd remember how it felt to discover you'd been hiding such a significant part of yourself. I understand, Alex said, squeezing her hand gently. I can't undo that mistake. All I can do is promise to be honest with you from now on. About everything. Claire's thumb traced small circles on the back of his hand, a gesture so intimate it made his heart race. I have conditions, she said finally. Anything. First, we take this slowly. For Emma's sake, as much as ours. Alex nodded. Of course. Second, no more secrets. Even difficult truths are better than comfortable lies. Absolutely, he agreed. And third, Claire continued, meeting his eyes directly. I pay my own way. I need to know that I'm your equal in this relationship, not someone you take care of. Alex hesitated. I understand why that's important to you. But would you consider a compromise? I want to respect your independence, but I also want to share what I have with you and Emma. Claire considered this, head tilted slightly. What kind of compromise? Let me help with the things that truly matter to you, like your dream of opening a children's bookstore. A flicker of surprise crossed her face. You remember that? I remember everything you've told me, Alex repeated, smiling. I've actually found a perfect location, a historic building 3 blocks from here. But I don't want to own it. I want it to be yours, something you build yourself. Claire's expression softened. That's a generous offer. It's not charity, Alex clarified. It's belief in you, in your vision. She seemed to consider this, then nodded slowly. I think we can work something out. The door burst open again, Emma's patience clearly exhausted. Are you done talking yet? She asked, Mr. Whiskers clutched under one arm. The tabby cat toy looked somehow more alert, as if sensing the importance of the moment. Claire and Alex exchanged a look, a silent communication passing between them. Claire smiled and nodded. Yes, I think we are, she said, extending her hand toward her daughter. Emma hurried over, eyes darting hopefully between them. Is Mr. A staying? Claire pulled her daughter close. What would you think about that if Mr. A was around more often? For dinner, Emma asked. Sometimes, Claire said, and maybe other times too. Emma considered this with endearing seriousness, then nodded decisively. I think that would be good. He makes you smile the special way. Claire blushed slightly, meeting Alex's gaze over her daughter's head. Yes, he does. Alex felt something tighten in his chest at the simple observation. He had built skyscrapers, negotiated billion-dollar deals, transformed an entire industry. But making Claire Bennett smile her special way suddenly felt like his greatest achievement. Would you both like to have dinner tonight? He asked. Nothing fancy. Maybe that little Italian place near the Commons. Can Mr. Whiskers come too? Emma asked solemnly. Of course, Alex replied with equal seriousness. He's always welcome. Claire smiled, and it was indeed special, warm, and genuine, and just for him. We'd like that. As they left the staff room together, Emma slipped her small hand into Alex's larger one with casual trust that nearly undid him. In that moment, he silently vowed never to give either of them reason to doubt him again. Snow continued to fall outside the library windows as they made their way through the children's section. Mrs. Peterson caught his eye and gave an approving nod, as if she had orchestrated this reconciliation herself. Perhaps in her own way she had. I need to finish my shift, Claire said, glancing at her watch. Another hour. We'll wait, Alex replied. Maybe Emma can show me her favorite books. Emma's face lit up at this suggestion. I know just where to start, she announced, tugging him toward a shelf labeled Adventures. Claire watched them go, her expression soft with something that might have been love. 1 year later, snow fell again, coating the city in crystalline white. Boston winters were legendary, the kind that had inspired Robert Frost's poems and Currier and Ives' prints. Commonwealth Avenue Mall stretched like a white ribbon through the city, its Victorian gas lamps glowing warmly through the falling flakes. The small corner shop at the intersection of Maple and 6th Streets glowed with similar warmth, its bay windows decorated with paper snowflakes and miniature sleds. A hand-painted sign above the door read, "Once Upon a Dream," and beneath it in smaller letters, "Books for Young Adventurers." Inside, the scent of old pages mingled with cinnamon and chocolate from the adjoining cafe area. The shop seemed to have been designed with both childlike wonder and adult nostalgia in mind. Vintage Steiff teddy bears shared shelf space with contemporary picture books. A collection of antique first editions sat in a glass case near modern bestsellers. In the listening corner, vinyl records from the 70s and 80s shared space with digital audiobooks. Comfortable reading nooks with plush pillows and child-sized furniture created inviting spaces throughout the store. The walls were adorned with murals depicting scenes from beloved children's classics, a wardrobe opening to a snowy wood, a spider spinning whoosh above the pig, a wild rumpus of strange creatures dancing under a full moon. Behind the counter, Claire adjusted her glasses as she helped a young boy find the perfect dragon book for his little sister's birthday. Her honey-brown hair was twisted up, as always, with a few strands escaping to frame her face. A simple silver band with a modest diamond caught the light as she reached for the store's computer to check inventory. "We have one more copy in the back," she told the boy with a warm smile. "Would you like me to gift wrap it, no extra charge?" The boy nodded eagerly and Claire disappeared into the stockroom. The shop had been open for 6 months now, quickly becoming a neighborhood favorite. What had once been a dream discussed over coffee in the library cafe was now a thriving reality. The building itself was perfect, a historic brownstone with character and charm that Claire had fallen in love with immediately. Alex had purchased it outright, but true to their agreement, he had put it in Claire's name alone. She had designed every aspect of the store herself, from the reading nooks to the carefully curated selection of books. Alex had helped, of course, in ways that respected her vision. He had spent weekends assembling bookshelves, installing light fixtures, and even hand-carving the miniature reading bench that now sat in the shop's most popular corner. His only request had been the addition of the small cafe area where parents could enjoy good coffee while their children explored literary worlds. The bell above the door chimed, and Emma burst in, pink cheeks flushed from the cold snow dusting her coat and hat. At 6 years old, she had grown taller, but still favored pink dresses now paired with practical leggings underneath. Mr. Whiskers, the faithful tabby cat toy, was tucked securely under her arm, his missing ear and well-worn fur a testament to years of love and adventure. "Daddy's parking the car," she announced to no one in particular, unwinding her scarf. He said not to wait. The easy way she said "Daddy" still made Claire's heart swell. The adoption had been finalized 3 months ago, shortly after their small intimate wedding ceremony in the Boston Public Garden. Alex had asked Emma's permission before proposing to Claire, presenting the little girl with a child-sized ring that matched her mother's. The transition had been smoother than any of them could have hoped. Emma had taken to calling Alex Daddy naturally without prompting about 6 months into their relationship. The first time she'd said it during a pancake breakfast at Claire's apartment, Alex had been so overcome that he'd had to excuse himself to the bathroom to compose himself. They lived in a comfortable colonial house in a quiet neighborhood 20 minutes outside the city, not the mansion or penthouse one might expect from a man of Alex's wealth, but a home chosen together with warmth and family in mind. It had a wraparound porch where Emma hosted tea parties for her stuffed animals and a large oak tree perfect for a tire swing. Alex still maintained his role as chairman of Morgan Hotels, but his schedule was now built around family first. He was home by 5:30 most evenings in time for dinner and Emma's bedtime stories. The board had initially been skeptical of his reduced role, but the company was thriving under Lawrence's day-to-day leadership, and Alex's strategic vision remained as sharp as ever. Claire emerged from the stockroom with a beautifully wrapped package completing the young boy's purchase. As he left clutching his sister's gift with pride, she spotted Emma removing her boots by the door. "Sweetheart, where's your hat?" Claire asked, noticing her daughter's damp hair. "I left it at school," Emma replied with the casual dismissiveness of a child for whom lost items were simply a fact of life. "But look what I made." She proudly held up a construction paper creation, a family portrait showing three figures standing before a house with a large chimney puffing smoke hearts. Beneath it in careful first-grade printing, "My Family" by Emma Morgan. Claire took the artwork with appropriate reverence. "It's beautiful, Emma. We'll hang it in the special place when we get home." The special place was a wall in their dining room dedicated to Emma's creations, carefully framed and arranged as if in a gallery. Alex insisted that each new masterpiece be presented with ceremony and properly lit, much to Emma's delight. The bell chimed again, and Alex entered, bringing with him a gust of cold air and snowflakes. At 39, he looked younger than he had when Claire first met him, the perpetual tension in his face replaced by laugh lines around his eyes. He wore jeans and a cable-knit sweater under his wool coat, his corporate armor long since relaxed for family life. "Sorry I'm late," he said, brushing snow from his shoulders. "Conference call with Tokyo ran over." "You're just in time," Claire replied warmly. "Mrs. Abernathy is coming in to cover the last hour, and then we're free for the weekend." Alex crossed to the counter, dropping a kiss on her lips with the easy familiarity of a man who still couldn't quite believe his good fortune. "Emma told me about the sleepover tonight," he murmured. "Her first one." Claire nodded, a mix of pride and maternal anxiety in her expression. "Zoe's mother has our number, and she knows to call if there's any problem." "Which means," Alex said, lowering his voice to a conspiratorial whisper, "we have the house to ourselves tonight." Claire blushed, swatting his arm playfully. "Behave yourself, Mr. Morgan. There are children present." His eyes sparkled with mischief and something deeper, a love that had only grown stronger with time. "I'm simply suggesting we might enjoy a quiet dinner, perhaps some wine by the fireplace." Claire hummed skeptically, though her smile gave her away. "I know exactly what you're suggesting." A customer approached with questions about chapter books for reluctant readers, and Claire slipped seamlessly into her professional role, guiding them towards several options with infectious enthusiasm. Alex watched her work, still sometimes struck by the simple joy of seeing her in her element. Emma tugged at his hand. "Daddy, can we get hot chocolate before we go to Zoe's?" "Excellent idea," he agreed, crouching to help her button her coat. "The good kind from Hartwell's with the peppermint sticks." Emma nodded emphatically. "And whipped cream, it's very important." "Well, if it's very important, then we must insist upon it," Alex said with mock seriousness. Claire finished with her customer and joined them by the door, wrapping a scarf around her neck. "Mrs. Abernathy just texted. She's parking now." As if on cue, the elderly woman entered, bringing with her the scents of lavender and peppermint that seemed to follow her everywhere. A retired school teacher who had taught in the Boston public school system for 40 years, she now worked part-time at the bookshop. She had a gift for recommending exactly the right book to even the most reluctant young reader. "Go on, then," she shooed them good-naturedly. "Enjoy your family time. I've got everything under control here." The three of them stepped out into the snowy afternoon, Emma between them, each holding one of her hands. A classic New England winter had descended on Boston early this year, transforming the streets into a postcard-perfect scene. The famous bronze duckling statues in the public garden peeked out from under white caps as they passed Emma, pointing excitedly at the familiar characters from Make Way for Ducklings, a Boston children's staple since 1941. As they walked toward Hartwell's Bakery, Emma spontaneously initiated a game of swing, counting to 3 before Alex and Claire lifted her between them, her delighted giggles rising into the cold air. A passing elderly couple smiled at them, the woman leaning to whisper something to her husband that made him nod in agreement. Claire realized the picture of family happiness, the kind of scene that might appear in a holiday card or a television commercial for life insurance. But what struck her most was how genuine it felt. Not a performance of happiness, but the real thing, built day by day through morning rushes and bedtime stories, through disagreements and compromises, through quiet moments of connection over coffee or across a pillow. "Penny for your thoughts," Alex said softly as Emma skipped ahead to examine a particularly icy puddle. "I was just thinking about how lucky we are," Claire replied, squeezing his hand. "Not because of the house or the bookshop, although those things are wonderful, but because we found each other, because we tried again even after things went wrong. Alex's eyes softened. Second chances are rare. I'm grateful every day that you gave me one. They reached Hartwell's, its windows steamed from the warmth inside. Before entering, Alex paused, turning to face Claire fully. You know, when the board first pressured me to stabilize my personal life, I was furious, he admitted. I thought they were interfering in something that was none of their business. And now, Claire asked, her breath visible in the cold air. Alex smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners in the way she loved. Now I think it might be the only business decision they ever made that actually mattered. Emma pushed open the bakery door, releasing the scents of chocolate and freshly baked bread. Come on, they might run out of peppermint sticks. Alex laughed, pressing a quick kiss to Claire's forehead before following their daughter inside. Heaven forbid. Claire paused for just a moment longer, watching through the window as Alex lifted Emma to see the display case, their heads bent together in serious consultation over the merits of various hot chocolate toppings. She thought of that first evening at Bella Vista when a little girl's drop-stuffed cat had changed the course of 3 lives. She thought of mixtapes and handwritten letters of bookstores that served as community spaces of second chances and new beginnings. As Claire stepped through the bakery door to join her family, she caught sight of their reflection in the window glass, Alex showing Emma how to examine the hot chocolate options with mock seriousness, their identical expressions of concentration revealing a connection that transcended biology. Her own face watching them wore an expression of peaceful contentment she hadn't seen in the mirror for years. One final blind date indeed. The phrase now seemed like beautiful irony. What had begun as a reluctant obligation for both of them had become the pivot point around which their lives had reorganized themselves into something unexpected and precious. Outside, snow continued to fall on Boston, soft and insistent, covering the hard edges of the world in gentle possibility. Inside Hartwell's bakery, among the scents of chocolate and cinnamon, Claire Bennett Morgan watched her husband and daughter debate the critical importance of extra whipped cream and thought to herself that some endings were really beginnings in disguise. And this one, this beautiful disguised beginning, felt like it might last forever.